Hey guys, welcome back, and in today's video we are going to be continuing on with my college football deep dive series. If you missed the first episode, we went over my number one team entering the year being the Texas Longhorns. We're going to pick up right where that video left off, talking about my number two team in the country entering the 2025 college football season, and that is the Clemson Tigers. Clemson was a team that I was pretty low on last year. I thought they were going to finish fourth in the ACC. They obviously won the ACC, made the college football playoff, and while they still had their struggles from time to time, you saw this team get more confident and get better as the year went on. They have a ton of returning production. I'm really excited about what Daboswinney is going to be able to do with this group. But if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. These videos take a long time to put together, all of the slides and graphics and watching all the film on all these players. I know it's a very simple task, but if you guys wouldn't mind leaving a like on this video, helps get this video out to more college football fans that would enjoy content like this. And be sure to check out my Patreon page, which I will leave linked in the description below. It's $5 a month, and you guys are going to get access to exclusive film breakdowns, my entire library of interactive deep dive guides with double-sided player cards that you guys are going to be able to look at player stats from the previous season, all of my scouting notes, measurables, and it's one of the more fun things I've gotten to do here. So if you guys do enjoy stuff like that, it is $5 a month or a one-time purchase of $10 for the Clemson Deep Dive Guide. That will all be linked in the description below. But guys, let's not waste any more time on this video. Let's go ahead and take a look at the moves that this Clemson team made this offseason, starting off with the coaching staff. Now, I think one thing that got lost in this college football offseason, it was a crazy offseason, but Clemson bringing in Tom Allen to replace Wes Goodwin is one of the more underrated, slept-on storylines of the entire season. Tom Allen was a phenomenal defensive coordinator at Penn State, the former head coach at Indiana. He comes over, and I think he's going to be able to implement his defensive system perfectly here. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video, but I think this is a home run. I do think the coaching staff overall upgraded in that group. At the quarterback's position, Clemson really didn't lose anybody, but they bring in one name, and that is going to be three-star recruit Chris Denson, 6'2", 185 pounds, flipped his commitment from Coastal Carolina. Interesting player there, but a guy that I don't expect is going to see the field really at all in the 2025 season for the Clemson Tigers. At the running back position, this is one that I think Clemson really had to look and address early, and they did that. They brought in Gideon Davidson, one of the top true freshman running backs in the country, ranked at number 5 in his class. I think he's going to be really good. They also brought in another 4-star running back in Marquise Henderson, and he's not listed on the slide here, but wide receiver Adam Randall is also going to be switching from receiver to running back this season. So I think they've got some really fun storylines to monitor in the running back room. And overall, Phil Maffa did get picked by the Cowboys, but I did think some of his stuff held this team back in the running game this year. So I am going to say they upgraded there. At the wide receiver position, they lost 3 guys. Jackson Crosby, he ended up going to Eastern Tennessee. Noble Johnson went to Arizona State, and Troy Stellato went to Kentucky. But they brought in Tristan Smith, one of the few transfer portal moves that Daboswinney has made. He comes in from Southeast Missouri, freaky size, really excited to get to break him down later on. And then they brought in Juju Preston, a true freshman. He's a 3-star recruit. Don't expect him to see the field much this year because this wide receiver room is loaded, but definitely a name to monitor. Overall, I'm going to say it's neutral. I don't know that any of these guys are going to be major impacts. At the tight end position, I'm going to say they downgraded a little bit. I thought Jake Brenningstole's ability to be a dynamic receiver at times really helped bail this team out. They didn't make any moves, but they do have Logan Brooking, a 3-star recruit, played lacrosse, former edge as well. Going to be interesting to see kind of how he fits into this whole offense, but again, not a guy that I expect to fill Brenningstole's role right away. Then we move on to the offensive line. I am going to say they upgraded here. This Clemson offensive line at times has been rough to watch. They lost Marcus Tate, but they bring in Easton Ware, who was a 4-star recruit, Gavin Blanchard, a 3-star recruit, and another 4-star recruit in Braden Jacobs. I think all of these guys have long-term outlooks to being potentially starters for this Clemson team. Off the edge, they lost to A.J. Hoffler, another one of their guys that hit the portal. He ended up going to Georgia Tech, but they made one of the more impactful transfer portal pickups, bringing in Will Helt from Purdue. Helt was a phenomenal player for the Boilermakers this past season, and I think he's going to fit seamlessly into this defense. They also bring in Ari Watford, another one of these freaky 4-star recruits. Excited to get to talk about those guys. On the interior of the defensive line, overall, I'd say they upgraded it. You lost Peyton Page and Trey Williams, but Amari Adams is a awesome, and I mean awesome player. One of my favorite watches of anybody on this Clemson team, 5-star recruit. And then you also brought in Mekhi Williams-Lee, another really good athlete that I think can upgrade this defensive line. So I'm going to say they upgraded there. The linebacker position, you lose Barrett Carter, a 4th-round pick. You bring in Jeremiah Alexander, and the reason this is a neutral, Barrett Carter was just not very good for this Clemson team down the stretch last season. Just was in the wrong place way too much. Jeremiah Alexander, very limited experience up to this point, but I definitely think he has the tools to being a long-term tight end in college football. And then going to the secondary, very little moves. Clemson really returning the same group. They lost to Foy Fagan. He went to Ole Miss. They didn't add anybody in the cornerback room, so slightly downgraded there. You just lose a little depth. And then I do think they downgraded in the safety room. R.J. Mickens, Caleb Nix, and Sherrod Cavill all leave, and they didn't add anybody. So R.J. Mickens is the big one. He was one of my favorite watches. Even going back and watching some of this Clemson tape, he was so important for this defense. One of the longest tenured player on the Tigers. That's going to be a big loss. There's some big shoes to fill in the secondary that I don't really have all the answers to. So we're going to see if they're going to be able to fill that. But overall, I think this was a good offseason for the Clemson Tigers. They improved the running back room. They were active in the portal. Even though they only brought in 3 guys, I like the moves. And again, they had a pretty solid recruiting class. So let's go ahead and take a look at this coaching staff. Obviously, still headlined by one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in college football. And that is going to be Daboswinney. Look, I get it. Dabo has a very old school mentality. He wants to redshirt guys. He wants to bring them up through the high school ranks. He doesn't want to go out and get the portal. I myself have been critical of this in the past. I thought there were times where I thought the game was catching up to him and he needed to adapt. And he did that this year. He brought in 3 guys. He at least made some moves. But what he does and the way that he is able to create this perfect balance of the offense and the defense and bring it all together, he is a really great culture builder. I think there is no doubt about that. The culture that he has built for this Clemson program, obviously a guy that has won national championships, loves the complementary football with the offense and the defense. I mean, he is the perfect head coach for this team. He allows his coordinators to do what they want to do, but he is the man in charge. I think you could argue he's still the best coach in college football. And I think we saw that last year. A team that at times they looked like they were not the most talented on the field. They kept finding ways to win games. They got better as the year went on. Those young guys that he brought in, they developed. He is still a phenomenal coach. I saw a list recently ranking him as like the 15th best head coach in football. That's just BS. I think Daboswinney's a phenomenal head coach, and I think he's got this Clemson team right where he wants it because he's got 2 damn good coordinators in place. Starting with Garrett Riley, he came over from TCU right after they went to the national championship, and he runs a very heavy air raid offense, a lot of quick passing game, a lot of spacing, timing. This team just hasn't really had the infrastructure in place to run the scheme that I think he really wants to until later last season, where they were able to take some of those deep shots with Wesco and Moore really stepping up as the year went on. I think this is the first year where we're really going to see those air raid principles really come into effect. I think they could really help Cade Klubnik cement himself as a potential first-round pick. He's done a phenomenal job. He comes from the Washington State coaching tree and the very heavy quarterback-friendly air raid offense with a lot of pre-snap reads and things of that nature. And he loves running backs that can catch out of the backfield. That's another reason why I think this running back room is going to be a little bit improved. Maffa just wasn't a great receiving back. So I think Garrett Riley could be in a really good position to have a very good offense. And if that's the case, he could get head coaching gigs as early as next season. But we mentioned it, they brought in Tom Allen, and I just love this move. If you watch Penn State down the stretch, I mean, this defense is fast, they're aggressive. He runs a high-energy 4-2-5 scheme with a lot of blitzes, disguised coverages, brings guys on stunts, and confuses offenses, particularly with different coverage looks. And he's just a really smart defensive mind. The fact that they were able to poach him from Penn State is a really big get for this staff and Daboswinney, because this defense has been really, really good. We saw what he was able to do with guys like Abdul Carter and guys like Dennis Sutton, who had fantastic years. You look at this Clemson defense that might be more talented. I think he's going to have a really good season. He's aggressive with those four-man fronts, but on the back end, he does a good job of mixing in a little bit of man coverage, a little bit of zone coverage, and I think this is going to be a really, really good defense, and I think Tom Allen has the pieces in place for this to be one of the most exciting defenses in all of college football this year. I think that was a huge get for this Clemson staff, and I think he's going to do a really good job with this team. So I like this coaching staff for Clemson. They do have one new face, but overall a very similar system coming in, and I think they're going to be in a really good spot to shine in the 2025 season. But let's go ahead and take a look at the quarterback room, and it starts with Cade Klubnik, who is the highest rated player that we have gotten to talk about. I think he's tied right now with Anthony Hill Jr. as the highest guy in this series so far. I have a 95 rating on Cade Klubnik, and Klubnik was a guy that I really liked going into last year. I thought there were some inconsistencies in his game, and he really, really shined down the stretch. He's been the starter at Clemson the last 2 seasons, but when he is on, he looks like the best quarterback in college football. He just throws absolute dimes. I mean, incredible arm, really good ball placement. He throws with a lot of zip. He can throw with touch, but his short to intermediate game, he's really accurate. He makes good decisions. He processes the field, I think, really, really well, and he's accurate with the football. I also think he has a great arm, and we got to see that down the stretch. I talked about how Garrett Riley wants to run an air raid system. Well, Cade Klubnik showed down the stretch that he's got the arm talent to help them run that scheme. The ball placement, particularly to Bryant Wesco at times, was phenomenal. He does a great job of throwing up the seam. A lot of rookie or college quarterbacks are afraid to throw down the middle of the field. And I thought Cade Klubnik was one of the best passers down the middle of the field that I have seen. Go back and watch that Texas game where he just threw dime after dime down the middle. He's got weapons at his disposal. And there's a reason why people think he can be a first-round pick in next year's draft. He's also a really good athlete, and the ability to mix in some of the RPO stuff with his ability to take off as a scrambler is really important for this offense. I believe he had almost 600 rushing yards this past season. He is a very good quarterback, and one that I just don't think is getting enough respect that he deserves. One big issue that I had with him was he felt like he underthrew a lot of passes. He really cleaned that up in the 2024 season. He's still not a perfect quarterback. There are so many instances where I think he just forces the ball into tight coverage way too much. He only had 6 interceptions this past season, but there were a lot of plays that could have been picked off. His pocket presence at times, I feel like he gets restless, makes poor decisions, and he's going to have to improve at recognizing blitzes on the line of scrimmage. I also think he's going to have to improve at when his first read isn't open, he does tend to throw the ball into tight coverage. He is going to need to be more disciplined. He puts the ball in harm's way way more than you would like to see. And yet I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country because you can't teach the accuracy, the arm talent, the athleticism that Klubnik has. He should be in the running for the number 1 quarterback in next year's class. I think right now I have Klubnik at around my 3rd or 4th quarterback in the draft. But if we're talking strictly college quarterbacks, I don't know if there's going to be a better one this upcoming season. I think he's that good, and he showed that down the stretch for this Clemson team. I'm all in on Cade Klubnik. Wouldn't be surprised if he's a Heisman finalist, an All-American, and a first-round pick. A guy that was one of the more heavily sought-after 5-star recruits in recent years, and he has lived up to the hype for Clemson. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. And in terms of depth, Christopher Vizina threw 40 passes last year, a 4-star recruit, a redshirt sophomore. He's got some traits that I really like. He's got a really good, super quick release, good overall frame at 6'4", 210, and I think he's got some nice wheels as a runner, but he's going to need to improve his eyes, scanning the field a little bit better. His accuracy struggled at times. He missed high a lot, and that causes turnovers. So Vizina is a guy that I actually like. I think he's a really fun backup quarterback that I think could be a starter for this team next year. But I have him as a 79 rating. And then a couple of guys, Trent Pierman, a guy that his dad was a part of the scouting team, a former walk-on for the Clemson Tigers. Obviously a good work ethic. He can run the ball a little bit, but I just don't think he's going to really be given a chance on this team. He doesn't have great throwing mechanics. He's not the most athletic guy in the world. I got him as a 71 rated. And then Chris Denson, the 18-year-old freshman out of Florida, flipped his commitment from Coastal Carolina. One of the most fun dual threat quarterbacks I've seen. Just a guy that could take the top off the defense anytime he took off it with his legs. Very shifty runner in the open field, but he's definitely a developmental quarterback. He needs to work on his progression. He's going to need to get stronger. He's only 185 pounds, so there's definitely some room to grow, but he could definitely develop into being the long-term backup on this team and potentially even the starter, because I think his arm talent is really good and his ability to make plays happen with his legs is really impressive. So that's going to do it for the quarterback room. Like I said, Cade Klubnik, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, instantly elevates this team, and it's a big reason why they are at number 2, because I trust Klubnik is going to be able to make it work this season. But moving on to the running back room, probably the one area where you might have the most concern about this Clemson team. If there's one area that I think Clemson's going to struggle in this season, it could be the running game, because a lot of unproven players, not a lot of snaps have been taken for a lot of these guys. 2 true freshmen, a red shirt in David Eziomume. Adam Randall is making a position change, so a lot to break down with this running back room. And let's start with the 4-star, Gideon Davidson, a guy that I do expect will be the number 1 running back on this team. 5'11", 185 pounds. Also played a little bit of safety back in high school, ran track, but a guy that I think has all the makings of being a superstar running back in college football. Excellent vision. The footwork was really, really good behind the line of scrimmage. And every time he touched the football, he had that opportunity to take it to the house. His jukes in the open field, his jump cut, his ability to make guys miss, really, really impressive. He's not really a power back at this point in his career. He's going to need to develop a little bit as a receiver. He's only 185 pounds, so I'd like to see him add on a little bit of mass, but it's just a speed demon in your backfield. And yes, he's not going to be a power runner, and he's not going to run the ball down the defense's throat, but he is a guy that the footwork is there, the vision's really solid, and if the blocking holds up and can open up rushing lanes, he could be in for a really big true freshman season. I'm really in on Gideon Davidson this year. I think he has a chance to be one of those true freshman breakouts. I got the fireworks on him this year. But then Adam Randall, really interesting one. A guy that I thought could have potentially converted to a tight end because he's 6'2", 225 pounds. But he got 4 snaps in the college football playoff against Texas, had 44 rushing yards, and they're making a position change. They're moving him to running back this year. And I'm really intrigued to see what he can do because, look, we talked about the size. This is a guy that definitely has a little bit more power in his game. He's going to be that short yardage back, good open field speed. There are times where he looks really, really explosive. He's got good upside as a blocker. Obviously, the receiving background, he can catch passes out of the backfield. He's got long strides, but he hasn't graded out all that well. The injuries, he had some injuries in 2023, and yeah, I'm very curious to see how this is going to work. The vision didn't look great against Texas. I have my reservations. I wasn't the highest on Randall as a player, but I do think this could be really interesting. So I have both him and Davidson as a 78 overall rating. And then they got 4 other guys that could potentially fight for RB3 snaps. Keith Adams, 3-star recruit, had 43 carries over the last 3 seasons for Clemson. His dad is a Bloodlines guy. He played linebacker at Clemson. I really like the speed. I think he's got some power in him. He's 5'9", 215. So he can run between the tackles, and he's shown good ball security. He's got good hands, can catch passes out of the backfield. I don't think he's got great vision. The footwork wasn't elite. I also didn't think he had the greatest speed, but I do like the power elements. If Adam Randall doesn't really work out, I think Heath Adams could be a really, really good power back on this team. So interested to see what he can be. And then David Eziamume, one of my favorite watches on this team. I gave him also it says 73 here. On my notes, I have it as a 78. I got the eyeballs on him because he is a guy that when he saw the field, this guy made plays. He had 10 carries in the 2024 season for Clemson, but he's just so explosive, has excellent contact balance. The footwork, the jukes, it shows on tape. I do think he can get a little bounce happy. He loves to bounce things to the outside. Not great in the passing game at times, but a guy that I think does have the potential to develop and being a lethal back for this team. I wouldn't be surprised if he is the number one running back on this team. As much as I like Davidson, Eziamume, I think, is a really, really good running back, and I'm all in on him this year. Then you got Marquise Henderson, a 4-star recruit, the number 10 running back in the country, a speed guy, just a guy that's got blazing speed, pretty shifty in the open field, has great wiggle, but very slim at 170 pounds, and I thought his vision was a little suspect at times. And then Jarvis Green is the last guy here, 5'9", 200 pounds, 3-star recruit, initially committed to James Madison, but there just isn't a lot there. Limited production, doesn't have crazy burst or explosiveness. He's got okay footwork, but really nothing to write home about. I think this running back room has some real guys that could break out in a big way, but there are a lot of question marks around what is this team going to look like? What is Adam Randall going to be for this team? Is David Eziamume going to be great? And can Gideon Davidson live up to the hype? There are a lot of question marks that could hold this team back. I fully admit that this could be the weakness of this Clemson team, but I like what they have going for them. I think they're going to have guys that are going to make plays for them. So we're going to move on to the weapons that Clemson has. And I was genuinely shocked. I knew Clemson had good weapons. And when I went back and watched the tape, I was more and more impressed every time I watched another one of these guys. Antonio Williams is a guy going into last year that I thought could have been a second to a third round pick had he come out of the draft. I thought he was that good of a player. He's 5'11", 190, had nearly 1,000 yards in the season for Clemson last year. He is an awesome wide receiver prospect. He is a better version of what I think a lot of people thought Xavier Restrepo was, just because he's a little bit bigger, and I think he's really explosive. He's quick off the line of scrimmage. He's good after the catch. He's an excellent route runner. He is one of the most impressive route runners in the country. The ability to separate across the middle of the field, really, really good. He knows how to get open. He knows how to use his speed and his size to his advantage. And I think that's part of what makes him a really good player. He's got a great release package off the line of scrimmage. He's shown the ability to win at all three levels of the field. And I think he's got really good footwork for the position. He hasn't been able to stay on the field. He's battled some injuries and probably going to be limited to more of a slot role. He also had 8 drops in 2024. He's going to have to improve his hands. But if he can shore up the hands a little bit, he could be an All-American receiver. I really do believe that. I wouldn't be shocked if he's a first-round caliber receiver because I think he is a fantastic weapon. The hands are suspect at times, but the route running ability is really, really good with Antonio Williams. And then you got TJ Moore, a true freshman from last year's class, a 5-star recruit, the number 4 wide receiver in the country. Remember, Micah Hudson was a 5-star. Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Cam Coleman. So TJ Moore was right in that mix. I think that he is a good receiver. I got an 86 overall rating on him. Had a 10% drop rate in 2024. I think he's going to need to improve against separating. And can he be a more physical weapon? I thought physicality at times hurt him. But at his size, 6'3", 200, he did a really good job of high-pointing the football. He was smart against zone coverage, a good, willing blocker. I thought he showed some solid production after the catch, and he had good stop-and-go ability. I think he's a good overall athlete. I just want to see him be a little bit more physical. Use that big frame, be a little bit more consistent at winning those balls. I think he's probably more what I love about this Clemson receiving group is that all three starters complement each other so well. You have Antonio Williams, who's likely going to be that slot receiver for you. You have TJ Moore, who I think is going to be your X, the guy that is going to be that possession receiver for you, the guy that's going to be that just move the chains guys. And then you got Bryant Wesco, who is one of my favorite players in the country. I think he is phenomenal. 4-star recruit in the 2024 class, 6'2", 180. But his strength, or his strides and his length are phenomenal. Incredibly explosive off the line of scrimmage. Very shifty as a route runner, and has a great release package. I thought there were times going back into that game against Texas where they gave him press looks and he showed the ability to separate. I thought that was really impressive. He is an excellent route runner. The stop and go abilities are fantastic. He showcases that track background with elite long speed. Play strength, it's up and down. I think he struggled against more physical defenders. I want to see him high point the football more. I thought it led to some bad decisions from him, bad drops. That's going to need to get better, and I think he can improve as a blocker. But Bryant Wesco, to me, is the best receiver on this team. I know I have Antonio Williams a little bit above him in terms of rating, but I think Bryant Wesco is going to be one of the best receivers in the country this year. I just love everything about his game. The size, the speed, the route running, it's all there. And if he can get it together as a blocker, this could be a legitimate number one weapon for a long time. I love his game and think he's going to be in for a breakout year at Clemson. Going into some of the receiver depth, though, we'll start with Cole Turner, a guy that's kind of been with the team for a little bit, targeted 25 times in the 2024 season. It felt like he got phased out of the offense as the year progressed. Doesn't have great size at the position at 6'1", 185, but he's pretty explosive. He can route run. I thought he did a pretty good job running routes. Nothing to really write home about. I think he's probably more of a slot weapon, just a depth piece for this team. Juju Preston, blazing 3-star recruit. Just incredible speed at the position. I think you can use him on a lot of gadget plays, but gonna need to be more nuanced as a route runner. And again, he's 6 foot, 175 pounds. Likely a slot weapon at the collegiate level. Tristan Smith is the one I do want to talk about, though, because I think a lot of Clemson fans are going to be curious on what type of player is he. He's 6'5", 205 pounds, just one of the biggest receivers I have looked at. He's got a fun story. He started off as a JUCO player, transferred to Southeast Missouri where he was really productive, and then ended up hitting the portal and ends up going to Clemson. I believe he was the first commit of the transfer portal cycle for Clemson. I liked his promise that he showed as a route runner. Excellent size. The catch radius is phenomenal. He's got good long speed. I think he's got the ability to be a Z, to be that deep ball, like the deep ball threat for this team, because the size, the speed that this guy plays with is really good. I think he knows how to separate deep really well. But, man, there were concerns that I had on his tape. I thought he didn't have a great release package, and he struggled against press coverage. I felt like he really struggled to separate at times against more physical defensive backs, and I thought his hands were suspect at times. A lot of tipped passes where instead of just catching the ball, he would just tip it up. You're better off just not touching the football. He put the ball in harm's way a lot. He's not as physical as you wanted to see either. I believe he had a 37% contested catch rate. For a guy that's 6'5", 205 pounds, you got to play more physical than that. I didn't think Tristan Smith did, and it is a concern that I have about him, but I do think he's going to play for this team, and he's going to be able to give you some potential looks as a deep threat. We mentioned they want to push the ball deep. Tristan Smith definitely opens up that opportunity for you, but gonna have to improve his hands. Tyler Brown, he was targeted 7 times in the 2024 season, and then he had an ankle injury that sidelined him for most of the year. But at 5'11", 180, he was really productive in that 2023 season where it seemed like every Clemson wide receiver went down with injury. Tyler Brown was one of the guys that stepped up, made plays. I think he could be a really good player on screens, can be shifty in the open field, but he doesn't have great size, not a great blocker, and he's coming off an injury. And again, kind of felt like he got phased out as the year went on. Going to be curious to see what they do with Tyler Brown, but I got him as a 77. And then Myson Kelly as well, 74. 3-star recruit, was targeted 8 times this past year. He's a good athlete with ball skills. He's got vision to reverse field. He's great with the ball in his hands, but I didn't think he had the greatest speed. And again, more of a gadget type of player in my eyes, a little bit undersized at 5'9", 190. Don't really know that he'll see the field all that much with all the weapons that Clemson has at their disposal. But at the tight end position, really interesting group here. We talked about they lost Jake Brenningstool, and they're going to go with Olsen Pat Henry. Now, Pat Henry played quite a bit for this team last year, 308 snaps, has a former basketball and track background in high school. I thought he was a good overall athlete. There were times where I thought he showed that speed to be able to push the ball, to be able to be a seam stretcher. I thought it was there with him. I thought they could use him a little bit of everywhere. They like to play him in the slot. They like to play him in line. They like to mix it up with Pat Henry last year, but I think he's a really good blocking tight end, and that's what excites me about him. You can use him in line. You can use him in these 2x2 sets where he's in the backfield next to Klubnik and opening up run lanes. I thought he was really good in that role. I think that's probably where they're going to play him, but he's very limited as a receiver at this point. Not a lot of production, not a great route runner. The hands still question marks. I thought he was really slow at the top of his routes. I thought when he tried to make cuts and different things, he just could not get out of his routes with a lot of quickness. And that does concern me a little bit. I want to see a little bit more explosiveness from him. And unfortunately, I just didn't see that. So I do have my question marks about that for him, but I have the eyes on him. I definitely think there's a world where he could break out this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if Christian Bentancur ends up being the guy that ends up taking the number 1 tight end role. Only played in 17 snaps, a redshirt freshman, but a 4-star recruit from the 2024 class. The athleticism is really impressive. I think he's a really shifty route runner, good hand. He is the exact replacement that you want for a Jake Brenningstool. 6'4", 240, very similar frame. He is going to be that big slot type of tight end. You're not going to play him a ton in line, but he is going to be a good route runner, a guy that's going to be able to get open. He's just not a great blocker, did not do a ton of inline work, but what he can give you as a receiving option really, really intrigues me. And we talked about how they love to develop these guys. I think Bentancur could be one of those guys that has a big breakout for this Clemson team. Josh Sapp is another guy that's interesting, 3-star recruit from the 23 class. His father, Patrick Sapp, played 4 seasons in the NFL, also a Clemson alum. But a guy that's shown to have phenomenal hands at the position, good concentration. I think at his size, at 6'1", 225, he'll probably be more limited to a slot type of role, but in high school, he showed the ability to play a little bit of everywhere. Great concentration at the catch point, though. There was one catch I believe he made against Florida State where he showed that concentration, just followed the ball all the way to the end and made a really nice grab. He's just not a great athlete, not a great blocker, doesn't move super well. So I got some questions there. Marcus Dixon, 3-star recruit from the 23 class as well. I like the frame at 6'4", 247. Good blocker, but again, kind of a clunky mover and just not a very fluid athlete. But Logan Brooking is the guy that they did bring in. His dad was a 5-time Pro Bowl player, Keith Brooking in the NFL. Played edge in high school, but very physical after the catch. I thought he ran well, used his body well to fight for extra yards. He used his hands really well across the middle. Obviously, you love the NFL bloodlines. He can be an impact in the blocking game as well. Not an amazing route runner, not a great speed guy, but Logan Brooking is a versatile tight end that I think could do a little bit of everything for you. I don't know that he'll play much as a true freshman, but the upside is there for him to develop, I think, to at least being a number 2 guy next year. The tight end room is interesting. You don't really have number 1 guy that you feel great about. You got a couple of guys that you feel good about, but they have very contrasting skill sets. But this wide receiver room is absolutely elite that the Clemson Tigers are rolling out next year. It's a big reason why I have them as the number 2 team in the country. They are fantastic. They could do a little bit of everything for you. So I feel really good about their receiving room. But let's move on to the offensive line. We talked about how the running game could be a concern. Unfortunately, I think the offensive line also could be a concern. They've got 4 returning starters, so you'd feel pretty good about it in theory. But, man, This offensive line is, well, it's an infuriating watch. I'll say it. Let's start with the positives. Blake Miller is awesome. And I went into last year's draft cycle, watched him last summer, really did not like anything that I saw from Blake Miller. I thought he was way too light. I thought he got overpowered a little bit too easy. I thought his footwork needed an improvement. Just anchor, he got beat to the outside. And this year in 2024, I thought he really stepped it up. The athleticism is phenomenal. His ability to make plays in the open field, his explosiveness off the line of scrimmage is really, really good. He is a powerful run blocker in space, but I thought he improved as a pass protector this season. He showcased that ability to move his feet. He showcased the ability to counter rushers with his hands. He's 6'6", 315. I'd still like to see him get a little bit bigger, but definitely a guy that I really believe in. I have a first-round grade on Blake Miller for next year's draft class because I think the athleticism is a plus. I think he improved incrementally every single week. And look, there are still times where he gets beat to his outside shoulder. He does let defenders work into his chest at times. The anchor is up and down, but I think the positives outweigh the bad. I thought he had a really good year, was by far the best player on this Clemson offensive line last year. And so I really like him going into the year. I think Blake Miller is one of my favorite guys in the country as a potential breakout and a first-round caliber offensive lineman. Now we'll talk about the negatives. We'll just start with the starters right now. Tristan Lee, a grad transfer, or not a transfer, but a graduate. He comes back for another year. 5-star recruit in the 2021 class. And I just don't think he has showcased that ability at all. His anchor, really, really poor at times. I thought he was, for a guy that's as big as he is, 6'6", 315, his anchor is really poor. I mean, he gets overpowered a ton. I don't think he's a great athlete at all. I think he gets beat to his outside or his inside way too frequently, disengages too early, didn't have any pass rush counters. I thought he was a better run blocker than he was a pass blocker, but even then, I still thought there were some concerns. He can be an okay puller. He's got good length, but a guy that just, man, Tristan Lee is just an infuriating watch at times, and the potential's there. You see it with the size, but he's just not lived up to the hype at all. I want to say he allowed almost 30 pressures this past season. That's not going to fly this year. He's going to need to be better in pass protection, because I think now they actually have guys that they could bench him for if they really need to. So didn't love what I saw from Tristan Lee at all. And then Harris Sewell's the one new guy on this team. He did start in 4 games for Clemson, threw shot put and discus back in high school. 4-star recruit in the 23 class. I like his frame at 6'4", 310. He's a good athlete, pulled across the formation really well, really good hand placement. But I do think he can get a little grabby, obviously limited playing time, and I thought there were times where he had that opportunity to just power guys into the ground, but defenders were able to bounce off of him really easily. So I'd like to see that get a little bit better for him. But I do think he's a solid guard and is going to be a positive. I definitely think the arrow is pointing up for him. Ryan Linthicum, another graduate, started every game in 2024 for Clemson. He's an okay athlete, has the ability to climb to the second level, but again, just the play strength concerns and the struggles in pass protection. His anchor, again, really, really bad. Struggled against power rushers at times, and he just did not hold at the point of attack really well. He disengaged early, struggled to really hold up, and it concerns me. Again, now like I said, they have guys that I feel like you could bench Linthicum for, but he just hasn't been this great piece for this offensive line like you were hoping for. And that does concern me because I think you need better play. And then Walker Parks as well. Started every game for them at right guard. Another graduate, 4-star recruit from the 2020 class. There are times when he shows some good power in his game. He's a good chip blocker. He can play both tackle and guard at his 6'5", 305. But again, the issue with this team is the play strength. I feel like all 5 of these guys' play strength can be a concern. I also think Parks is not a very good athlete. He's a little bit of a clunky mover. He had some inconsistencies. He lunges a lot. Just not a great athlete. When I have concerns about 4 of the 5 starters on your offensive line, it's not good, to say the least. The offensive line is the second most important position behind the quarterback. And outside of Blake Miller, who I think is a phenomenal player, I don't feel good about very many of these starters. I think you could get okay play from Harris Sewell, But if you get the same players that you saw last year on this Clemson O-line, there are going to be concerns about what this team is going to be. Now, I mentioned that they have guys that I feel pretty good about if they were to bench some of these players. So let's get into those. Elijah Thurman, a redshirt sophomore. He played 143 snaps for Clemson last year. Good athlete. The explosiveness is there. I think he could be a good run blocker, strong hands, good footwork and pass protection, but he is a bit of a taller tackle, 6'4", plays with some high pads. His waist bend, I thought, was lacking at times. He got beat to quickness to his outside shoulder. I think Thurman probably kicks inside to guard. He is a guy that didn't have the greatest length in the world, struggled against some more quicker pass rushers. I think Thurman, he's right now, I got a 76 as a tackle. I think Thurman would benefit from kicking inside. I think he can make a really good guard for the Clemson team. Easton Ware is another left tackle. He's 6'5", 285, a true freshman. Played in both offense and defense in high school. I think he's got a good frame. He's a good run blocker. His ability to drive guys into the ground, really, really impressive. I thought he had good explosiveness off the ball, great footwork in all phases. Again, disengages a little early. And I just don't think his body is ready for the college game. I think he redshirts a year at least. He's 285, going to have to bulk up at the next level. Then we go on to Ian Reed, the other left tackle backup, has 11 blocking snaps through 2 seasons. Rugby background, but just hasn't seen the field much. Balance was a concern with him. Pass protection just was up and down. A very good, strong tackle back in high school, but a guy that I just don't think will see the field all that much. But if there's a tackle that I'm betting on, it's Braden Jacobs. Braden Jacobs is phenomenal. The son of former New York Giants running back Brandon Jacobs. He was the MVP of the 2025 Polynesian Bowl. He's 6'7", 320 pounds. He also competed in both wrestling and in swimming, which is interesting. But one of the freakier tackle prospects I have looked at. An incredible athlete who's got great power, great run blocker. His ability to get upfield is impressive. Really, really good. I just worry, he plays with high pads, and I think he lunges a little bit. He has the tall tackle problem at 6'7". But he played more right tackle. If I were Garrett Riley, I would start Braden Jacobs as a true freshman. I would kick him out to left tackle. I'd keep Blake Miller at right, and I would probably replace Walker Parks with Elijah Thurman. I think that would give me the most confidence about what this offensive line group could be, because I think Braden Jacobs is a very good offensive lineman. There's a lot to love about his game, from length to height to size to athleticism. I think he fits this offense really well. Do I expect that to be the case? No, but I think Braden Jacobs very well could see himself getting snaps down the road. And then Mason Wade is the other tackle on this team. Initially committed to Duke, flipped to Clemson. I just think he's got a lot of lunging issues. Play strength is up and down. Decent run blocker, but that's really all I see from him. So that does it for the tackle depth. But the interior, I don't really love their interior depth. I think this is why I think Thurman could kick inside to guard and be really good, because you got Dietrich Pennington, a guy that was a 4-star recruit back in 2021. Got great size. I mean, he's 6'5", 350 pounds. He's strong. He's a good run blocker, but just not a lot of tape out there. Had some weight concerns out of high school. Just struggled to lose weight. Not super explosive. Didn't have great hands. So, I mean, I love the size. I really do. But there's just a lot of question marks about him on if he's even going to be able to play at the college level. You got Chapman Pendergrass, former walk-on, was not a heavily recruited player. He's settled really nicely into more of a special teams role, but he hasn't seen the field much as a blocker, and there's just not a lot of tape out there, so I got a 71 on him. Bryce Smith, a player who was a 3-time state champ in high school, bypassed 3 scholarship offers to walk on at Clemson, but a player who just hasn't played. He's got 9 snaps in his career. Another guy that wasn't heavily recruited. A lot of questions there. Gavin Blanchard was a 3-star recruit, committed to UCF, flipped to Clemson. Not an explosive athlete, but he generates power. He's got a good leg drive. Pancakes were all over the place on his tape. Overall, solid hands. Inside-outside versatility is there. He played a little bit of tackle back in high school, so I like him. Colin Sadler is recovering from a calf injury that he had surgery on, but there were times last year where he looked like he could be a starting guard for this team. good size, really nice chip blocker inside. Not a great puller, limited playing time, and then obviously you're recovering from an injury. I do have concerns about that, but I got him as a 75. And then Ronan O'Connell's the other guy. Solid power profile. Overall, I thought he had refined hand placement. It was an okay run blocker in space, but just 7 snaps on the year, and I just don't love his athleticism. So the offensive line's a big question mark with this Clemson team. Do they have enough people? Do they have enough bodies? And can you get some solid play from Linthicum and Tristan Lee and Walker Parks? Can Harris Sewell take that next step? If you can get okay play from them, this team can win a national championship this year. But if you can't, I think this could be a tough year because they don't have the easiest schedule in the world. They go up against some good pass rushers. They're going to need to be on their A game. And that's the one area with this Clemson team where I think I have the most concern about is this offensive line good enough to win a national title? And I don't really know the answer to that question. But we're going to move on from the offensive line to the defensive line. I could not be more polar opposite from the O-line to the D-line because I think this D-line, obviously I've only done full deep dives into 2 teams so far. I would be pretty shocked if there's a better defensive line in college football than the Clemson Tigers defensive line next year. We'll do what we did last time, just go through the starters. TJ Parker, consensus first round prospect for next year's class. A guy that lined up really everywhere on the defensive line. I think you could play him in a linebacker role. You could play him as a true edge. You could play him way out wide. The length is phenomenal with him. He does an excellent job of converting speed to power. His bend is phenomenal. Extremely high motor, high effort, high floor run defender as well. I think a lot of people are going to talk about Parker as great of a pass rusher as he is, and rightfully so. He had, I want to say 12 sacks last year, was phenomenal. He's a really good run defender, though. He sets the edge really well. He's so explosive, gets into the backfield, creates havoc. I'm not comparing him to Abdul Carter. I'm not going to do that. But if there was a guy that you think that Tom Allen's going to use, like he used Abdul Carter, it's going to be this guy. His explosiveness, and I think he still has another level to get to. He's only a junior, but what he showed as a sophomore is incredibly intriguing. I still have the arrow pointing up on him as a 93 overall. I mean, there's not a whole lot of notes in terms of negatives. I think he could play high at times. And I think he can be a little too reliant on his speed and power. If he could develop like a one good inside counter, I think it could be over for college football because his tape is good. His tape is really good. And I didn't even think he showcased a great inside counter. So if he can do that, it could be a really good year for TJ Parker. And then Peter Woods, I did a full all 22 breakdown on Peter Woods on my Patreon, which you guys can go check out. The link will be in the description below. Peter Woods will be an All-American. He will be a top 5 pick in the draft. He is one of the best defensive tackles I have watched. I think he's right on par with that Jalen Carter, Mason Graham sort of tier. The athleticism that this guy has is rare. I mean, this is a guy that was playing legitimately off the edge last year for Clemson. This is a guy over 300 pounds that was playing off the edge. He could play nose. He could play in the 3-tech. He can play off the edge. And it didn't really seem like anywhere he played was a weakness. It's a guy that showed phenomenal hand counters. He showed the ability to shed blockers at an incredibly high level, get into the backfield, and wreak havoc on defenders. Go back and watch that SMU game. He was excellent in that game. He has shown the ability to split double teams. He knows how to combine double moves. He's got versatility, active hands, great run defender, explosiveness. I mean, what's there not to like about Peter Woods as a player? I think he is one of the most well-rounded players in college football. He is the highest rated player we have talked about in this series. He's not a perfect player. I got a 96. I think he can be pushed off the ball a little bit too often. And there were times that I thought missed tackles showed up for him. Was not as dynamic as a pass rusher as you wanted to see. Created pressures, not a lot of sacks on tape. I think this year where he's going to be playing more of that true interior role, they're not going to be doing stuff with him off the edge because I think they feel pretty good about the moves that they made on the edge. I think Woods is going to be even better this year in that 3-tech spot. I think he'll be a top 5 pick in next year's draft. I really do. He is a awesome player that is he's going to be an incredible player to watch this year. And then Demonte Capehart, really, really interesting player. Served as more of a rotational defensive tackle throughout his career, but he's going to get the chance to start this year. He's 23 years old. He's a bit older. I don't think he's got a crazy high ceiling to get to, but I do think he complements Peter Woods really well on this interior. Nice initial burst off the line of scrimmage, strong and reliable tackler, and a guy that is going to be able to be an elite run defender. I think he can take on double teams. He's got good power in his game. He's 6'5", 315. He's not a great pass rusher really at all. Not a lot of counters, not a lot of, finesse moves to make big splash plays, but as a like really solid high floor run defender, I think Capehart's perfect for this team. He'll get drafted next year, probably in the mid rounds because he is such a good run defender, but I got an 84 rating on him. And then at 86 overall, I got Will Helt. We talked about him in the intro, a transfer from Purdue, spent the last 2 seasons at Purdue, 6'6", 265 pounds. And look, I just think this guy's got what you want to see. High motor, really good size and length for the position. What really pissed me off, if you go back and watch Purdue, thank God they fired their coach, because the same thing happened with Nick Scorton last year. They don't know how to use their edge rushers, apparently. They loved to drop Will Helt back into coverage. That's what they did with Helt so often. I felt like he was so underutilized. Yes, there were times where I thought he could have been, utilized more as a pass rusher, but they just didn't do it a whole lot. I like that he can drop into coverage, but he's much more than that. I think he's got the potential to be a really good pass rusher. He showcased the ability to be a great stuntman, getting into the backfield. He's a great run defender. And again, you have 2 really good run defenders off the edge in Parker and Helt. Good athleticism as well from Helt. I think he's going to need to be a bit more of a power rusher, though. Got to be more consistent at converting speed to power. And I just didn't think he had a go-to pass rush move. Like a good swipe or two-handed move, something to be able to win consistently. I also felt like he was best when he went inside, when he had a good inside move. He's going to need to be better at challenging the outside shoulder of offensive tackles. If he can do that, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 100 pick next year, but there is still room for Helt to grow. I do think in this system, though, it is a really good one for him to get better. I really like his development for this team. In terms of edge depth, you got Cade Denhoff, who played pretty well down the stretch for them. Good motor, great first step off the line of scrimmage. I think he's got good bend for the position. Just not a guy that's going to be able to consistently set the edge in the run game. Not a great pass rusher in terms of winning with moves. Doesn't have great length for the position, but I think he's a good extra body in there. You got Armin Mason as well. I like his game a little bit. More of the speed, I would say. Some decent bend, some decent run defense. Playing 104 snaps for Clemson last year. Good overall frame at 6'3", 240, but again, I think he gets stuck on blocks a lot, needs more pass rush moves. I like his speed. I don't like his explosiveness. I thought his first step off the line was a little bit slow. Then we go to Jaheim Lawson. I like Lawson quite a bit, actually. I think Lawson is going to be a really fun player for this team. Incredibly explosive off the line of scrimmage. Really good pass rush counters, I felt like. I thought he actually had a pass rush tool bag that some of these other guys on this team didn't have. I also thought he showed the ability of setting the edge in the run game. Plays with high pads. He's not a great power rusher. I think if you utilize him in more of a designated pass rusher role, you could see a lot of really good stuff from Jaheim Lawson. So I like him. I got an 80 overall rating on him. Zaire Patterson played in 26 snaps. Hasn't seen the field a whole lot in 3 years at Clemson, but he's got long arms, good explosiveness, and good bend. Just probably going to be another designated pass rush type. Darian Mayo, a redshirt freshman that I actually really liked. He played 35 snaps in 2024. Nice speed and athleticism, though. He's 6'7", 265, can defend the run well. I thought he had the build to be a really nice player. He's still got room to grow into his body. I think he can get up to around 275. A little bit more refinement as a pass rusher, but I think Darian Mayo's got some potential on this team. And then Ari Watford was a 4-star recruit. He's 235 pounds, but really explosive, really good pass rusher with good length. He's a little undersized, and I think he's a little overly reliant on his athletic traits, but I like his game a little bit as well as a DPR. Going inside, you got Vic Burley, played 93 snaps, 5-star recruit from the 2022 class. Impressive athletic profile, good speed and power at times, but going to need to continue to grow into his frame. And I just want to see more consistency. A lot of missed tackles, just more consistency I think is really important with Vic Burley. Champ Thompson, 3-star recruit from 23. Not a heavily recruited guy. His dad played for the Falcons. They love their bloodlines, guys. He's a guy that's made some splash snaps here and there, but I don't really expect Champ Thompson to be much on this team. I like his size overall. I think he's got, he's 6'3", 290. Could play a little bit of inside, outside, but not a whole lot to write home about. But Amari Adams is I go back and forth on who is better between him and Justice Terry. Amari Adams is a freak. I wouldn't be surprised if he is one of these true freshmen that plays right away for this team, because the number 2 defensive lineman in the class, the number 1 player from South Carolina, played basketball, track, and shot put, played on the AAU circuit for basketball. Rare athleticism. He's 6'4", 285, but his first step is ridiculous. Incredible quickness. He is a very hard hitter, strong tackler. He's got active hands. He was virtually unblockable at times in high school. He just showcased the ability to just blow plays up. You would like to see maybe a little bit more pass rush production, because as active as his hands are, wasn't very productive. Doesn't have a lot of a plan as a pass rusher, but this dude is legit. I got a 79 overall rating on him as a true freshman, and I have the arrow pointing all the way up. He's going to be one of those guys in the 2028 draft that I think could be one of those legitimately top 5 picks. I think he's awesome and a perfect heir apparent to Peter Woods. I think he's phenomenal. You got Mekhi Williams-Lee here as well. He was really productive in college, a 3-star recruit, great run defender, some solid hands, some solid waist bend. Just not a great athlete, wasn't heavily recruited. I got a 76 on him. Stephylan Green is a guy that I have seen pop up on some NFL drafts and some early mock drafts and stuff. Look, I like the power in his game. He's 6'4", 290, good first step. He converts speed to power really well. He's a high floor run defender. I didn't love his balance. I thought he was overpowered a lot by more powerful offensive linemen. Didn't bring much to the table as a pass rusher. Struggled to get off of blocks, but I like his run defense. Similar to K-Part, I think he could be a really high-floor run defender. Then you got Heaven Brown Schuler, another guy that played just 49 snaps. Strong run defender, but I don't love his length. He's not super twitchy and overly reliant on his power, I felt like. And then Caden Story is the last guy. Interesting player. Played in 55 snaps last year. He's got good frame and length. Played inside and outside. Potential off-the-field issues. Was arrested back in 2024 for marijuana charges. Potentially could add some more pass rush moves. A guy that is a little bit slow off the line at times. With how deep this defensive line group is in Clemson, I don't think Story's going to play much. But this defensive line is really good. This is the reason why Clemson's number 2. You have 2 guys that are going to be top 15 picks in next year's draft. I think the development of a guy like Will Helt and Devontae Capehart, Amari Adams, and Stephylan Green, you have so many options here that I think could be really good. Even Jaheim Lawson, I love this group that they have. I think everyone complements each other. And again, you have Tom Allen coming in. He's aggressive. He wants to blitz. He wants to disguise stuff. You're going to be able to do a lot with this group. I can't say enough positive things about this Clemson defensive line. They are an incredible group. And I think the linebacker room as well is phenomenal. Wade Woodaz, one of my favorite names in college football. Let's get that out of the way. I was going into it, I was like, I'm not really expecting much from him. Really impressed me. He's a former 3-star recruit, was recruited as a safety, converted to linebacker, but you see some of those safety tendencies show up. Really smart linebacker. The coverage feels really good. Great downhill player. Takes good angles as a run defender. He's just a smart player. The coverage instincts, the blitzing instincts, the timing that he plays with, really, really impressive stuff there for him. Played all over defense for them. Obviously, safety, they lined him up in as an edge. He can blitz really well. One of the better blitzing linebackers I've watched. I really like that about his game. I don't think he's a great block shedder. That's kind of the area I have the biggest concern with him about. Can he get better at getting off of blocks? Because I don't think he's a great athlete. I don't think he's got this crazy speed. I think he is a good linebacker because he's so heady. He makes such smart plays. I think he's got good quickness, not great speed. I do like Wade Woodaz a ton, though. Missed tackle rate is a little high, though. He's going to need to be better. But as much as I like Wade Woodaz, I think Sammy Brown is the better linebacker. And he just started 6 games for Clemson. 5-star recruit in the 2024 class, a member of the 24/7 Freaks list, drew comparisons to Miles Jack coming out of high school. Miles Jack, one of the freakiest athletes we have seen at the linebacker position in quite some time. And you see that athleticism show up on tape. The speed, the burst, the track down speed that Sammy Brown has is ridiculous. I think it's phenomenal. Great tackler, great downhill run defender. He makes a lot of tackles. Great blitzing option as well. Again, they want to run disguised blitzes. You got a guy in Sammy Brown that can do that. I think his coverage can improve a little bit. Limited snaps, obviously. There were some times I thought he showed good coverage potential, but definitely can get better in coverage. And I do think he's going to need to get a little bit stronger, but he's only entering year 2. The potential is there for him to be one of the best linebackers in the country this year. And another reason why I'm so high on this Clemson team, this linebacker group is really, really good. You got decent depth here. Jamal Anderson, his father played for the Falcons. He started a game last year for Clemson. A little bit smaller, though. He's 6'2", 215. Very athletic background. Could be a nice depth piece for you. He's been productive when he's seen the field, but he's going to need to get bigger. And that's kind of my big concern with him. You got Kobe McLeod. His brother is Ray McLeod. His other brother is Jordan McLeod, who was a really nice college quarterback for a little bit. Played 20 snaps for Clemson. I think he could be a nice blitzing threat. Showed some good coverage upside, actually, on his tape. Bit of a raw player that needs some refinement as a tackler. A little bit undersized as well at 5'11", 225. So you want to see that improve. Drew Woodaz is another player that just hasn't played a lot. Played 14 snaps last year as a redshirt freshman. But a guy who I think could be a decent contributor on special teams. Obviously the brother of Wade Woodaz, who we talked about just a minute ago. Probably a special teams guy if I had to guess. But Jeremiah Alexander, very interesting player. He never started a game for Alabama in 2024. He only has played 57 snaps for the Tide. Was recruited as an edge. They moved him to an inside linebacker position. And look, there's potential there. He's got great length to the position. I think he's a good special teamer as well. The play strength is good. Great athlete. Going to need to improve at getting off of blocks. Obviously needs some more polish and coverage. Had some missed tackles at times. But I love the athletic traits. I love the way he moves. I think he does have what it takes to be a good coverage player. We just haven't seen it for him up to this point. So I got a 77 rating on him, the last transfer they brought in. And then D. Creighton as well, playing 154 snaps for Clemson. A former track player, and it shows. Good downhill presence, good blitzer, run defender. He can cover a little bit, but I don't think he's an elite athlete at times. Felt pretty heavy on his feet, particularly in coverage, which worries me a little bit. But overall, I think it's a good linebacker group. I think you got some really interesting developmental guys. I think Jeremiah Alexander is going to probably fill that Barrett Carter role, who is more of that downhill thumping type of role where you've got Woodaz and you've got Sammy Brown kind of roaming the middle of the field. So I love what they're going to be able to do. I think they've got the right personnel in place. I'm excited to see this group in action. But the last thing we got to talk about is the secondary, which is the other area of this team where there's a lot of question marks. They have Avion Terrell, who we'll start with, one of the best corners that I've watched, 5'11", 180. Maybe he could be a little bit bigger. You want to see him add a little bit more strength. Missed a lot of tackles, but the ball skills, the speed, the athleticism, the quick hips, the closing speed, his ability to come downhill and tackle, everything you want to see in a corner, Avion Terrell checks those boxes. He is a elite cornerback. it seemed like every single play he was somehow involved in, whether it be as a tackler, whether it be in coverage, deflecting the passes. I mean, there's so much to love about Avion Terrell that I'm really excited to see what he can be. But outside of that, you've got a lot of unproven players in this secondary. We'll go left to right. Ricardo Jones here, going to be that free safety for them this year. And I think his man-to-man coverage is a bit unrefined. The long speed, not great, which is probably why they're going to play him in more of that free safety role. But he's 6'2", 195 pounds. He's got a really good back pedal. I thought he flashed good production with good closing speed, short area burst. The ball skills look like they are there. I do have the arrow pointing up on Ricardo Jones. I think he's going to step up in a big way for this Clemson team. I just want to see him be a little bit better in man-to-man coverage. And I worry about his long speed a little bit. Then you got Kylan Griffin, 5'11", 200 pounds. Ended up starting a little bit for Clemson last year. Former 3-star recruit. Again, I like his range on the back end. Smart player, good instincts and coverage. Willing downhill run defender, I think great. You got a really nice, strong safety here. A lot of missed tackles. Again, man-to-man coverage concerns for him. I think if I'm them, I'm probably starting Griffin at the free safety and moving Ricardo Jones to the strong safety. Kylan Griffin's got better speed. I think he played a lot better in that single high role. And I think that Ricardo Jones, I want him closer to the ball. I think that's where he is at his best. I go based off of the R-Lads depth chart, so that's kind of the way they had it. If I had to guess, that's probably the way they're going to do it, is they're going to have Jones at the strong safety playing closer to the line of scrimmage, and they will have Kylan Griffin on the back end. Then you got the other outside corner in Ashton Hampton. Really like his game, was a true freshman last year, but a good press athlete. I thought he was really fluid, showed good physicality at the line of scrimmage that you wanted to see. The length he showed, he's just a great athlete. They really emphasize run defense with this cornerback room. You can see it, and Ashton Hampton shows good run defense. Misses a lot of tackles. You'd like to see him bulk up, get a little bit stronger. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. And I just want to see more ball production for him. The arrow's pointing up, though, because I thought what he showed as a freshman was really encouraging. And I like his game. And then you got Khalil Barnes, a guy that did start for Clemson last year. 3-star recruit from the 2023 class. I think he could be a versatile defensive piece. Played safety, played in the nickel. I think he could play outside at his size at 6', 195. Didn't have the greatest range athletically, which is why I think he's going to play the slot. But great ball skills, great fluidity, smart football player, good football IQ. He is a little bit slim in terms of his frame, but I like his game overall. I think he's the right guy to be that nickel for this team. And then you look at some of the other depth. I mean, you got Brandon Strozier. I have the arrow pointing up on him. 73 snaps last year. Redshirt sophomore. Great athlete. He closes well for the position. But I want to see more from him as a run defender, as a tackler. Instincts are there. There's a guy that had good ball skills, but still some question marks that I have. Corian Gibson, 6'1", 185. Great track star back in high school, but has to be stronger. Want to see him bulk up at just 185. That was a concern I had with him. And then you go on to Jaden Lucas. Jaden Lucas is good. I have an 81 overall rating on him. I like his game a lot. Played 532 snaps in 2024. But some of the freakiest length and size you're going to see. Great impress coverage. He hits hard for the position. Showed good range and athleticism. I think Jaden Lucas could be a really interesting player for this Clemson team. I think he could potentially play in the nickel. If Khalil Barnes just isn't working out for you in that role, why not play Lucas in that spot? I think the length is definitely there. He's not the greatest athlete. The production's not awesome. He's an older player that just hasn't been productive, but there's a lot to like about Lucas. I'm a big fan of his game. And then you got Michael Mankaka here out of, I don't know exactly where he came from, but redshirt junior, former walk-on, hasn't seen the field very much, has a good frame at 6', 190, converted from wide receiver to corner, but just a guy that I don't expect will see much. Shelton Lewis, he played 198 snaps, former 3-star recruit, Fluid athlete, plays physical, but just seemed to get phased out of the lineup as the year went on. He's very heavy on his feet, oversets, gets beat way too easily. Again, 5'11", 185, a little bit smaller than I would like to see as well. Ronan Hannafin as well, he's 6'3", 215, has a lacrosse background. I really like Hannafin. I think he's a great athlete, has long strides, could be a downhill presence as a blitz threat. He's a great tackler. I think he could play both linebacker and safety for you if you need to. Needs some more refinement when breaking out of routes. I think he's a little bit heavy at times, but I think Hannafin's a good player. And then Noah Dixon as well. 4-star recruit in 2024. Didn't have the greatest speed, but I thought the instincts were there. Redshirted last year. I definitely think he could be an impactful player for this team. Then you look at the safety room. Tyler Venables. I don't expect him to play much. He played 161 snaps. His dad is Brent Venables, obviously, former defensive coordinator at Clemson, currently the head coach at Oklahoma. Venables has seen the field in 900 snaps over 5 seasons, but he's really never carved out a starting role. He's a good special teamer, was injured all 2023, but he's here because he's such a great vocal presence for this team. He has been kind of another coach in the locker room for them, so I got a 75 rating on him. Joe Wilkinson, 3-star recruit in the 2024 class, another guy that redshirted last year. Special teams ace. I think he could be a great downhill run defender. The instincts are there, but I just don't think he's a great athlete, and he's just still pretty unrefined in coverage. Rob Billings, former track star in high school, has had some decent production when he was in high school, but just hasn't seen the field a whole lot in college, and I think he's probably more of a depth piece. And then lastly, you got Kylan Webb. 25 snaps last year, talented track star, but I thought his suddenness and closing speed was a little bit underwhelming. Look, this is an interesting secondary because there are pieces here that you feel really good about. Terrell, Hampton, Lucas I really like. I think Barnes is going to be a safe guy for you as well. But do you have enough in this group to be a contender? That's kind of the question mark I have. I am leaning on the side of yes. I think you always get the best. I feel like Dabo always gets the best out of his secondary. I think you're going to see the same thing this year. So to wrap things up here, an interesting schedule for Clemson. You start the season off at home against LSU, which could be a national championship preview if we're being completely honest. And then after that, you got Troy at Georgia Tech, not an easy game, versus Syracuse at North Carolina, not an easy game either. Boston College, SMU, I think SMU is still going to be very competitive. Duke, I think, is going to be one of the more slept-on teams in the country. I think Florida State's going to be solid this year. Louisville's going to be good, and you got to go on the road. I believe that's a Friday, too, so it's a short week there. And then at South Carolina, look, this is a tough schedule for the Clemson team. It really is. You've got to play multiple ranked opponents, and teams I think are going to be at the top of the ACC this year. But I do like what they have this year. They showed the ability to win games last year. And obviously, we know Dabo can get it done. I think they're going to win the ACC again. I'm not predicting against that, but I do think they're going to be 2 losses in the regular season for them. If you go back to the preseason odds, they are plus 115 to win the ACC, plus 1,400 to win the Natty, and a 9.5 win total. If I was going to bet, I do think that this team probably goes over the 9.5. I think they go 10-2. It's close. I think South Carolina on the road is probably going to be a loss if I had to guess. And I think they're going to probably lose to either one of Duke, Florida State, SMU, or Louisville. One of those 4 games I think is going to be a tough one. But if we're looking at their returning production, they are first. They are returning a ton of their key players. They are 28th in the recruiting game. But if you look at the strengths of this team, the defensive line is elite. They've got so many guys that I think can come in, impact the game as pass rushers, as run defenders, and guys that complement each other's skill sets. I think they got a deep receiving group, and obviously I like the quarterback for them. Running game and offensive line, and I'd even throw the secondary in there, are the biggest concerns. But I do believe that Clemson has a real legitimate chance to win a national title, picking them to win 10 games, picking them to win the ACC, I think they're going to make a run in the college football playoff this year. But guys, that's going to conclude this Clemson deep dive. Comment down below, who do you think is going to be number 3 in this series? We'd love to hear from you guys down in the comment section below. Leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. Check out the Patreon for my full interactive guide for this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.